Hi, and welcome to FAR's virtual autumn roundup series. This presentation will be on biological seed treatments in wheat. My name is Jo Drummond. I'm the Senior Researcher for Cereals here at FAR, and I'd like to acknowledge the work of my colleague Andre Costan. This piece of work is around understanding why we might need our seed treatments and what can we do as alternatives, because a number of the products that we use in our seed treatments are either at risk of deregulation, at risk of resistance. So why do we need protection? In the insecticide space, we are likely, depending on where we are in the country, to be dealing with pests like grass grub, Argentine stem weevil, and aphids. And these are our two main species, the bird cherry oat aphid and our rose grain aphid. So those are our two main vectoring species. Now, traditionally, the management of these has been done by our seed treatment. That's usually our first port of call. Poncho, so clethiodin, a group 4 insecticide, is a neonicotinoid, and it has label claims for all of the species listed here. So it gives us some control of grass grub, it can manage Argentine stem weevil, and it is our first port of call for our aphid management. And typically for aphids, it's going to give us from planting through to about tillering. And in an autumn sown crop, that's going to be, it's going to roughly get us through to growth stage 21, and that may be up to 6 weeks. With grass grub, we're likely to need some other help, and that other help has traditionally come in the form of organophosphates. So things like diazinon and suscon green, which is chlorpyrifos. So these are group 1B insecticides. Now, the challenge with both chlorpyrifos and diazinon is that those have a limited life. I think we've got about 1.5 years left on diazinon and suscon green, so chlorpyrifos is under review, so it is unlikely that we will have access to those products. Use of neonicotinoids is still okay in New Zealand, but we've seen from other parts of the world where neonicotinoids are off the table, it has the potential to be a huge disruptor. So with OP withdrawal and neonicotinoid awareness and overseas bans, we have real uncertainty in our insecticide seed treatment space. Typically, we're getting our seed treatments as a combination, an insecticide plus a fungicide. What are we trying to manage with our fungicides? We are looking at seed-borne diseases. Now, seed treatment insecticides are often the only port of call that we have for managing things like smut. So we don't have another option in terms of foliar applications that will manage smut. And while they aren't huge yield robbers, we are typically really well covered by the seed treatments, and it is seen as a relatively cheap insurance because we don't know what's going to happen in any given season. The other thing that those seed treatment fungicides are going to provide is some early season foliar disease control, things like stripe rust and powdery mildew. Now, several years ago, we lost Galmano, so that was our mainstay for controlling early stripe rust. We were worried at the time that with the withdrawal of that product that we would see stripe rust come back into our wheat crops. That hasn't happened, and that's primarily due to really strong breeding for stripe rust, but we know with rusts and other diseases that things can change and pathotypes change over time. So we are vulnerable to some of these things in ways we perhaps haven't been in the past. The other thing to consider is that pretty much all of the fungicide seed treatments on the market are triazole based. So they're group 3 fungicides. I've referenced Kinto Duo here because this is part of our testing program, but on the label it states apply no more than 2 DMI or triazole treatments per season to crops from seed treated with Kinto Duo. The same goes for any other triazole-based seed treatment. So if we think about what happens with our foliar applications, even a 3-spray foliar fungicide program is likely to contain 3 triazoles. By the time you include that in that fungicide seed treatment, we are already over our limit. So how can we provide some resilience when we don't have that many tools? This trial was designed to look at different alternatives to insecticide and fungicide seed treatments. The first of those is Poncho, so that is our commercial standard, our neonicotinoid with clethodim. Our fungicide that was tested in this trial was Kintode Duo that contains triticronazole and perchloraz. The next series of treatments included biopesticides, so either a fungicide, a biological fungicide, or a biological insecticide, or we have a biostimulant. The first of our biological products was BioShield. It is a biopesticide, it's an insecticide, it is a bacteria called Serratia entomophila, and the strain is AGR262. This tells us what it does, and this is specifically for grass scrub control. Platform seed contains Trichoderma atrovidae. It is a biological and it does have activity against a range of diseases. It contains the strain LU132. The next two products are also biological fungicides, and they sit within that same family of activity as that Trichoderma product, Platform seed. But as yet, I can't share the details of them with you, but you can have confidence that they do have some activity in that fungal space. The final treatment is diversity seed treatment. That is a biostimulant. It is a peptide, and it contains a little hit of organic nitrogen. So that product has absolutely no claim on any disease or on any pest. It is primarily there to help support plant growth and establishment. I should point out that a number of biological products, even if they are biofungicides or bioinsecticides, some of them do contain multiple strains of different microbes that can help enhance growth or promote growth, in addition to having some level of control over a pest or pathogen. All of the treatments received the same foliar fungicide program, and aphids were monitored using integrated pest management and were part of our aphid trapping network, so none received a follow-up foliar insecticide. The first port of call was seeing if we were going to experience any issues at establishment. Now, we included bear seed in this mix. So bear seed is our negative control. It's really helpful to have a bear seed treatment when you're looking at comparing different programs, because we don't actually know what's in the soil and we don't always know what's going to be on the seed. If you are interested in knowing what's on your seed, you can talk with your supplier. And even if there is something on your seed, we don't always know if that is going to be a problem for us, because it depends a lot on the environment. So in this environment, we saw no suppression of plants establishment with a number of our treatments. We had a target plant population of about 150 plants per metre squared. And all of the treatments were providing pretty much the same establishment, with the exception of two of our biological combinations, which struggled a little bit and had significantly fewer plants at sowing. We don't know the reasons for this. It might be compatibility of microbes, or it could be competition for space and nutrients. And this is one of the challenges that we face when we're integrating biological seed treatments. But the interesting thing here is that many of the other combinations that included options with both conventional and biopesticides were all about the same. There were no differences in the number of heads. So we looked at what happened at establishment. Are plants able to compensate from lower plant populations earlier in the season by producing more heads? By the time we got to the end of the season, both of those products that might have struggled a little bit in terms of plant establishment at earlier in the season did compensate, but was it enough? Well, it turned out that both grass grub and seed-borne diseases were not limiting. And that meant that there were no differences between most of the treatments in this trial and bear seed. What also happened was those combinations that didn't quite perform so well earlier in the season did struggle, but again, we don't entirely know why that is. But what we do know is that when you're in an environment where grass grub and diseases are not limiting, and you are considering taking out some insurance in terms of that seed treatment, because we know that year on year, we don't know what we're going to get. The conventional products all performed about the same, and combinations of conventional and biological treatment turned out the same as well. So we can start considering how and when we dial in products and what work together. And that's really important, because biological products, you're putting a microbe into a system and expecting it to work is really, really challenging. So our main findings: grass grub and seed and soil-borne diseases were not yield limiting. And that meant there were no differences between most of our treatments, including the untreated control. So that can give us some confidence that under those conditions, whatever we were choosing was probably going to give us establishment, and it certainly wasn't going to negatively impact on our yield. Some biopesticide seed treatments had reduced plant population at sowing and subsequently had reduced yields. That again highlights the challenges that we face when you're integrating biopesticides, because we don't know how two different microbes are going to behave when they're put together. In this instance, we don't know how a bacteria and a fungi are going to work together. So putting two biologicals into a system to control something that's biological is incredibly complicated. And that's why we do this work. So we can start identifying combinations that might have some longevity and are able to be taken out onto farm.